They told you it was a testing accident. They told you the prototype just got away from a factory rider on a closed course in the deep sand of Belgium. They lied. What you're looking at isn't a crash site. It's a crime scene where physics murdered talent. The telemetry data we recovered from that 2026 prototype didn't just show rider error. It showed a deliberate rejection of the rider by the machine. For decades, motocross engineering has been designed to mask your inadequacies, with compliant frames and traction control that save you from yourself. That era ended 6 months ago in that Belgian sand. The 2026 machines aren't just faster. That's too simplistic. They are forensic tools designed to execute mediocrity. We've gained access to the engineering directives that define the 2026 model year for the major manufacturers. Industry insiders are calling it the Great Exposure. These new bikes don't have a learning curve. They have a survival threshold. If you can't operate at the absolute edge of adhesion, the bike won't help you. It will actively destabilize you. We are about to dissect the 7 engineering nightmares they built into these bikes to prove, once and for all, that you were never really that fast. Your bike was just lying for you. And the first lie begins where the machine meets its own skeleton. For 20 years, manufacturers sold you tuned flex. They engineered aluminum frames with calculated porosity and specific wall thicknesses designed to act as a secondary suspension. When you hit a square edge bump wrong or cased a triple, the frame bowed microscopically to absorb the kinetic shock that your ankles couldn't handle. It was an apology forged in metal. The 2026 chassis doctrine is based on absolute rigidity. They've moved to ultra-high modulus alloys previously reserved for aerospace ballistic shielding. The goal now is zero energy dissipation through the chassis. Every single joule of energy generated by the track is transferred directly, violently, to the suspension and the rider. Why? Because flex introduces vagueness. A flexing frame is a guessing game at 60 miles per hour in whoops. The 2026 bikes go where you point them with terrifying precision. But here's the trap. If your input is wrong by a millimeter, the bike doesn't absorb the mistake. It transmits that error directly into a tank slapper that modern steering dampers cannot contain. The bike demands you be perfect because it refuses to bend. But a chassis that won't bend is useless if the brain controlling it is plotting against you. You rely on traction control. Don't deny it. You hammer the throttle open exiting a slick corner, trusting a microchip to cut the ignition spark for milliseconds to keep the rear wheel behind the front. It's a crutch that has convinced thousands of C-Class riders they have a class throttle control. The 2026 ECU mapping has shifted from intervention to monitoring. The processing speeds are now fast enough to detect wheel slip before it physically happens, based on crankshaft acceleration rates that defy physics. But here's the sadistic twist. The engineers have dialed back the intervention threshold. The new systems allow for a 14% degree of yaw sideways slide that is unrecoverable for 95% of the riding population before they step in. They aren't designed to prevent a crash anymore. They are designed to mitigate the damage during the inevitable high side. The electronics are no longer your co-pilot. They are the black box recording your incompetence for the insurance adjusters. And when that rear wheel lights up and breaks loose, you'll pray the suspension is ready to catch you. It won't be. Suspension used to be about comfort and traction. Plush was the marketing buzzword. The 2026 forks and shocks have abandoned plush. They are engineering hydraulic violence. To handle the speeds these new chassis are capable of, the damping circuits have to handle oil velocities that cause immediate cavitation. The oil literally tears itself apart at the molecular level, turning into vapor pockets. When those vapor pockets collapse, they create microscopic shock waves inside the damper body. The 2026 valving stacks are so stiff that unless you hit an obstacle at race pace, the suspension will not move. At trail riding speeds, it will feel like a rigid strut. The hydraulic circuits only open up under immense, terrifying pressure drops. This means to get the bike to work, you must ride faster than your brain can process the approaching terrain. If you slow down because of fear, the suspension locks up, punishing your hesitation with a brutal impact that will shatter your wrists. The bike only rewards aggression. It tortures caution. But you can't be aggressive if the engine itself is trying to throw you off the back. This is the deepest secret of the 2026 development cycle. For years, manufacturers added heavy flywheels to 450cc machines to smooth out the hit and, crucially, to create gyroscopic stability. A heavy spinning mass wants to stay upright. It helps the bike track straight through rough ruts. They have gutted the rotating mass in the 2026 engines. The crankshafts are featherweights. The pistons are F1 level beryllium alloys. The engine spins up with terrifying ferocity, reaching its 14,500 RPM redline in milliseconds. But without that heavy spinning gyro, the bike has lost its natural desire to stand up. It is hypersensitive to lean angle inputs. It feels weightless, tipping into corners with unnerving speed. But mid-corner, if you chop the throttle, that stability vanishes instantly. The bike wants to fall over. You have to maintain throttle application just to keep the chassis stable using acceleration forces. If you let off out of fear, gravity wins immediately. You need perfect traction to manage that kind of volatile power. But the ground beneath you is about to surrender. The horsepower numbers for 2026 are classified, but early dyno leaks suggest torque curves that are essentially vertical walls. We have reached a critical juncture where engine output has surpassed tire technology. The sheer violence of the power delivery on the 2026 models induces what engineers call hysteretic thermal runaway in current rubber compounds. The tire gets so hot from internal friction that the chemical bonds holding the rubber together begin to fail before the tread even wears down. You aren't losing traction because the dirt is loose. You are losing traction because you are liquefying the only thing connecting you to the earth. This means your grip levels change dramatically from lap 1 to lap 5. You have to constantly re-evaluate how much throttle you can apply as your tire slowly dies a thermal death beneath you. And while you are fighting for traction, the bike is physically rejecting your body. Rider triangle, the relationship between seat, bars, and pegs, used to be adjustable. Rider comfort was a priority. The 2026 ergonomics are dictated by the chassis requirements, not human anatomy. The bikes are narrower than ever, forcing your knees into an unnatural inward angle to grip the tank. The seat foam is minimalist, high-density closed-cell foam that offers zero compliance, designed only to transmit chassis feedback directly to your spine. The cockpit is designed to force you into the attack position. If you try to sit back and relax, the geometry fights you. The bars feel too low, the pegs too high. It is physically uncomfortable to ride these bikes smoothly. They are designed to cause fatigue in anyone who isn't at peak athletic conditioning within 3 laps. The bike is testing your physical fortitude before it even tests your skill. Which brings us to the final, terrifying reality of the 2026 model year. The one they are terrified to put in the brochure. We used to worry about how a bike handled on the ground. Now, we have to worry about how it flies. The speeds achieved on modern supercross tracks have turned dirt bikes into crude aircraft operating in ground effect. The 2026 plastics aren't just for looks. They are active aerodynamic surfaces. The radiator shrouds are inverted wings designed to generate downforce at speeds over 50 miles per hour to keep that light front end on the ground. But here's the horror. The center of aerodynamic pressure is razor thin. If you leave a jump face with the nose slightly too high, that downforce turns into lift instantly. The bike will loop out midair with a violence that defies gravity. The zero-point doctrine is the engineering admission that these bikes are inherently unstable at low speeds, and neutrally stable in the air only if piloted perfectly. They have removed the safety net. In 2025, you could be a slow rider on a fast bike, and nobody knew. The bike lied for you. In 2026, the stopwatch stops lying. The bike will expose every flaw in your technique, every hesitation in your wrist, every weakness in your conditioning. It won't just make you look slow. It will hurt you for trying to pretend you are fast. The question isn't whether you can afford the new 2026 model. The question is, can your ego survive the truth it's going to tell you?